Yeah, we had a pool in the backyard. So I grew up in the water. Never was on a swim team till I got to Mac. So I was just always in the water. Yeah, before that, back then they had to have a league for water polo for you guys to go to the nationals. So there was a team in the West End that my two brothers were in high school playing on. So I got dragged out to be part of the team that got beat up by the Hamilton Aquatic Club team, and then that's how I got started in a sense because Bob Stamp was involved with that. And then when I started high school, he said, "You need to go to the practices. I'll pick you up, twice a week and drive you down to Scott Park." And that's how I started training with the club. I remember however you are in grade seven, whatever that is, grade seven or 12 or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, they did in health class, they did, he measured us all. So I think I was like 5'7", 5'8" in September, and I was 6'1" in June. I think back to Bob Stamp telling me I'd done it. When I started in grade nine or something, somewhere in grade 9 or 10, he said to me, "You're going to go to the Olympics in Montreal." And it was like, what Olympics? What are you talking about? The only Olympics I knew then was, watching the Wild World of Sports, ABC Sports, where that guy came down the ski jump and then ended up in the trees. That was my knowledge of the Olympics. So he told me about the Olympic Games that I really didn't have I wasn't paying attention to it at that time in my life. So, and it turns out he was right. I think we won three or four of them or whatever. We won. We were in a non-pool school group, Westdale, because we didn't have a pool. But then I think 1 year later or 2 years later, they moved us into the pool league because we were kind of dominating. In retrospect, I really didn't appreciate it very much because I was really young at the time. But I mean, I loved playing the game. I had a great time. I got in the water and I played hard and I had fun. Um, I think back to the Hungarian game that I got in the water, and the next thing I know, somebody grabs my arm, and I look, and it's Chapo, and he says, "Ball, I'm going to check you today." So I went, great. Now I have to drag around a 265-pound Hungarian for the next 4 quarters. So I think I do. I think I remember being because we had to have an interpreter there because I didn't speak Hungarian, obviously. So I think I remember them talking to me and then going back and forth. I don't know who it was, Gabor. I can't remember who was with me, but sort of go on and on. And I remember there was something in the paper at some point, but I certainly don't have any recollection of that anymore. Yeah, I thought we had a really good team. And my recollection is they told us about the boycott before the first game, right before the first game. Gabor said, "Oh, by the way, we've just been told we're not going anywhere." And I always felt that was something that he should have kept in his pocket until it was all over. Um, it was I want to say a younger team. It was it's really solid players, and that was something that I don't think we should have been told. That I wouldn't have been upset afterwards to say I qualified for the Olympics and then I can't go. I wouldn't bother me one bit. But I think it took the wind out of some of the younger players that just didn't think like, well, that's the end of that. We're not going in here. Yeah, I felt the team was really strong too. That's where, um, in a sense, I came back to the team like a month and a half before, so I didn't have as much time with it. That if we had a little more time as a team, we would have been a little tighter. But it was a very strong team. I felt one of the strongest teams that I've been on as far as an Olympic bound team. It was a very, very strong team. LA, I felt was a strong team. We had a good draw. The team was playing well. Personally, I know I made a mistake in my training. I was training by myself, and I basically overtrained myself to try to get in shape. So by the time I got to LA and we started playing, I felt I was exhausted. I felt really tired, and there's nothing I could do about it at the time but just keep playing. But I kind of chuckled to myself afterwards. About 2 weeks after the Olympics, I said to my wife, "Man, I feel great right now." Unfortunately, that's not the way I felt during the Olympics. My thoughts on that is it was the Friday night practices at MAC because at one point you had really three teams in the water. You had the MAC team, you had our junior team, and you had the senior team. So you had players on multiple teams, playing. I'm with this team now or on that team, but the scrimmages themselves were very intense. They were high level scrimmages, like game level, national championship level games going on every Friday night. And we had the referees who were referees that refereed at the Nationals, they are refereeing every Friday night. So I felt that we were game ready when we actually went and played somebody else because we've been beating each other up every Friday night, from September through till May. I mean, it was very similar to the American college system where you had to play your way onto the team. You had to play your way into the water.
Yeah.
And if you weren't good enough, if you didn't play hard, if you weren't showing that you could play in that group, then you were sitting on the sidelines. And I felt the old man had the same sort of style with me because he just kept putting me in the water against some of these biggest guys in the world that were they were older, stronger, more experienced than me, and I was sent in to deal with them. So I learned by trial by fire, so to speak. Um, Lutko, you know as well as I know, English was not even on his list of languages. So to have him to say that he actually told me things, well, that's not true because he didn't speak the one language I speak, which was good in a sense because when he got mad at everybody, he could never get mad at me because it wouldn't be any good to yell at me. It wouldn't get very far. So, but he was a very good coach. I will admit that he trained us well and he got us in fabulous shape physically and technically to play water polos. For that, that's for sure he's the best coach I can say that ever had us do that. It was a little rough in a sense because he got in the water and played, and so when they were playing, they played hard against the younger players, and it was again you had to play and do your job and get in the water and deal with them and learn how to deal with the older players that when things didn't go well, they started getting a little rough, which was fine. No one ever hurt me, so that's that, or hurt anybody else, so that was fine. I think Robert learned a lot from us being the national team players, you and Ricky and those guys, when you went off and played and you came back, you brought skills back to the club that then got assimilated by everybody else in the club. We took those international experiences and knowledge and brought it back to the team and started using it. And Robert picked up on all that and started applying it to our game in the club, which just made the club that much stronger all the way along. So he was very adaptable, and for that was pretty good on his part. It's a journey for sure, and it requires self-discipline. I think is one of the biggest things that you have to train and develop as a player. And it also involves a little luck, which is something you can't control, but it's out there. As I say, timing is everything, and in the water and out of the water. So just being at the right place at the right time can, shot put you forward with the team, or you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and you get passed over. It's nothing personal. It's just where it all is. So perseverance is a big deal, and the end of it, having fun. I have to admit, I know our friend Ricky and I drove you crazy, but we had a lot of fun. I remember the place. I remember the last play. So I was in front of the net with Vancouver net with Ricky, and I got a foul, and I rolled over and I threw him the perfect pass for him to just tap it in the net, and he put it off the crossbar. So then I'm pretty sure Shafee then turned and started going up the pool. And I'm just like, ah. And then Ricky goes, don't go. So Ricky stayed there. Whoever was checking it stayed there. And I slowly started swimming back up the pool, following Shafee. And I wasn't really catching him. I was just swimming along, my head up, following along. And he picked the ball up and realized he was going to shoot it. So I just stopped. And then he shot the ball. And the next thing I know, Foxy's got it. And then I looked and I realized, oh, I'm at halfway. I don't think he can throw it this far. And the next thing you know, sure enough, right up over my head, turned around, okay, go back up. One last shot, scored the goal, and that was the end of that. That's one of the things that, all the shots you've taken in your life and this and that, that's a shot that I still remember, because I swear the ball curved right up over his head and under the bar, which I'm like, I don't know how that worked. But I just, that's where it went.